If you play fantasy hockey, you're in the right spot. I'm the fantasy hockey expert, and today we're going to be going over the Boston Bruins and their fantasy hockey appeal for the 2025 to 2026 season. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. We're doing our 32 and 32 series. This is day 2, where we go over the Boston Bruins and we go into their top 3 players, which we'll do right now. Starting off at number 3, we have Charlie McAvoy, who is ranked the 32nd best defenseman right now. Now, that number might seem pretty high to you, might seem low to you, but 32nd is pretty high for Charlie McAvoy, a guy who puts up multi-category nights, night in, night out, does not put up a ton of goals, does not put up a ton of assists, but he is guaranteed to have you about 40 points if he stays healthy. Now, the question is he going to stay healthy? I believe he will. I think he's had a long time to recover since the Four Nations face-off. It's been about 7-8 months since then, and McAvoy has not had much injury history prior to that. So you're looking at a guy who you can get in the probably 8th, 9th, 10th round, who is going to put up blocks, is going to put up hits. He's almost like a mini Moritz Seider when it comes to blocks and hits. So I think McAvoy has extreme value. He's probably the sleeper pick / the value pick for the Boston Bruins. And with that being said, let's get into number 2, which is Jeremy Swayman, being ranked currently the 23rd best goaltender for fantasy hockey. Right around guys like UC Saros and Karel Vejmelka, guys who are on weaker teams but have some potential to outperform their ADP. Now with Swayman was being drafted as the 5th best goaltender last year in fantasy hockey, which was extremely high. That being said, Swayman came off of a career year the year before where he led the Bruins to the playoffs and pretty much stole the spotlight from Linus Ullmark, hence why Ullmark was traded. So what does this mean for Ullmark in fantasy? If you can draft Ullmark as your second goaltender after taking a stud like a Vasilevsky or a Hellebuck, you're going to be in really good hands. Now, for leagues such as Dynasty Leagues or Keeper Leagues, you're in even better hands because you're drafting a guy who is under the age of 26, who is guaranteed the #1 role for years to come. The Bruins don't have any elite goaltender prospects, but they do have a little bit of depth in their system. So you're going to get a ton of starts from Swayman, and you actually have a Boston Bruins team that is hopeful for the playoffs. With that being said, although I'm a Bruins fan, I know I have some bias. I do think this team can push for a playoff spot in an Atlantic division where there's a lot of question marks from teams such as the Toronto Maple Leafs, Ottawa Senators, and even the Montreal Canadiens when it comes to goaltending. Now, let's go into our number 1 player here, which, if you haven't guessed it by now, it's David Pastrňák. David Pastrňák is undoubtedly a first-round pick in your fantasy drafts. You better be taking him as your right wing number 1. I don't really see any other player who's going to outperform him other than Nikita Kucherov when it comes to right wingers. And he's a guy who's not only going to score you points, but when the Bruins do get shut out some nights, he's going to still have your 5-6 shots on goal. He just trailed Nathan MacKinnon for the league lead in shots on goal by 2 shots last year. So it was very close, and Pastrňák's going to shoot the puck even more. I don't see why he wouldn't when he's got Morgan Geekie and Pavel Zacha playing with him. So with that being said, let's go into a bit of a sleeper pick, and that is Morgan Geekie. So Morgan Geekie comes off of his breakout season where he had 30 goals. Pretty impressive for a guy who was traded from the Kraken, didn't look like he had a ton of potential. Bruins picked him up, signed him to a great contract. He is the brother of Connor Geekie, who is another breakout candidate for the Tampa Bay Lightning. With this being said, Geekie's a guy you're not going to want to take in the first 10 rounds of your draft. Geekie's a guy you're going to take with maybe the 12th, 13th round, your last roster spot, depending on if he has the dual eligibility at center and right wing. So some leagues might take him out of that right wing spot. Some might just list him as a centerman. And that's when you need to be very careful, as center is the most depth position in fantasy hockey. One more sleeper that you need to pay attention to is Mason Lohrei. And I'm not talking about leagues that count plus minus. I'm talking about any league that rewards power play points. And a lot of leagues reward power play points. Now, Lohrei is not the type of guy to rip the puck on the power play all the time, but he is the guy who can really move it. He's got great skating ability behind Charlie McAvoy. So if McAvoy does go down, you really want to look at streaming Lohrei. And although he is not going to be on your draft list, just keep an eye on him all year round. You might want to add him to your watch list. With that being said, guys, there's not much more to this Bruins roster, unfortunately. You have depth guys in Victor Arvidsson, guys who have been relevant before in fantasy, but there's no guarantee about what these guys will produce and where they'll fit into the Bruins lineup. You have guys like Casey Middlestad who have a point to prove to former teams like the Buffalo Sabres, but again, there's no guarantee about what they're going to produce when it comes to shots on goal, face-off wins, and much more. So that's going to wrap up our video for our 32 and 32 day 2, which is the Boston Bruins. I believe in this team. I'm a little biased, but I think this team can do some damage. I do think David Pastrňák's your one bright spot, so if you're in the first round, don't be shy about drafting Pastrňák. And I do have a question for you guys if you want to drop it in the comments. Would you take Pastrňák in the top 5 of your drafts? So if you have the number 4 or 5 pick, are you taking Pastrňák? Or would you consider guys like Kirill Kaprizov, Nikita Kucherov, maybe an Austin Matthews over David Pastrňák? So let me know in the comments. And tomorrow is going to be day 3. We're going to look at 3 studs on the Buffalo Sabres in Rasmus Dahlin, Tage Thompson, and I'll reveal the 3rd one tomorrow. So stay tuned. Make sure you guys follow our socials at the Fantasy Hockey Expert, and we'll see you tomorrow.